Hello everybody and welcome to the Sogode video channel. This video is a recording of a webinar that we organized recently together with Alkira Network as a Service. You may know Alkira. They're an American cloud networking company founded by the Khan brothers, who were the original inventors of Viptela SD-WAN amongst others. So they know a thing or two about networking. Alkira recently won another $100 million of Series C investment, and they're now quite eager to expand their market share. I really like them. I think it's a great product, and I was amazed by just how easy it is to, for instance, literally copy and paste a whole cloud network into another region. There you go, just like that. Copy, paste, and now you've set up a whole new cloud region. So in this webinar, we're discussing three main topics: simplifying the way cloud and network teams work together, how to deal with IP address overlaps, and integrating network segmentation into the fabric. If you want to know anything more about this, get in touch. We're available via the website, LinkedIn, or good old-fashioned phone. And with that, let's hop to the webinar. Thank you.
Who are the V Musketeers then, Chris?
Sorry?
Pardon?
What did you say, sorry?
Who are the V Musketeers?
Oh, there was originally three. A guy called Kim, Bilal, and Shadi. And then more people wanted a blog, and we all became friends, but we just didn't want to upkeep our own. And then ended up being, I think, 8 of us or something like that, all contributing on site. It was good because it generated quite a lot of traffic, because it was just constant streams of people.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Oh, let's see, we've got Oki in. Hello, Oki, you're right. Did I pronounce your name good? Good, excellent. All right. Well, let's get started. Got the majority of people in. So welcome. That's good. You can't talk. Okay, that's fine. We'll do the talking for you today. Well, we will listen as well. So yes, welcome to this presentation of Alkira. You may have heard they've recently won another round of investments. So Alkira looking to expand into the world. And today, this was meant to be focusing on France. We got a lot of people from other countries as well, so that's nice. We'll just keep it English. Sorry, we'll just keep it English for now. Let's go to the agenda. So we're going to start with some introductions. We're going to talk through 3 use cases. One is how to simplify networking, how to get network and cloud teams working together a bit better, a bit easier. How will we deal with IP addressing overlaps from, say, mergers and acquisitions, or from new networks being built without too much of an oversight? And the last use case that we'll talk about is network security into the fabric. So your host today. So if I start off with myself, my name is Piet van der Sande. I'm originally Dutch, lived in the UK for 13 years, moved to France last August. It's beautiful here, it's nice weather, and there's a new environment, so that's always nice to learn new stuff. And now here I'm excited to be working with Alkira, show what they can do. Next, we've got Phil. Oh, hi Phil, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course, yeah, we'll do. Thanks, Pete. Hi, everyone. So Phil, I'm the EMEA Sales Director here at Alkira.
And then star of the show, we've got Chris, Technical Solutions Architect. Do you want to introduce yourself, Chris?
Yeah, sure. So thanks. So far from the start, but thank you very much. Yeah, I'm the principal solution engineer here at Alkira, covering EMEA and the Middle East.
So first up is Phil to tell us all about Alkira and their network as a service platform.
Thanks, Pete. And yeah, thanks everyone. Feel free to put some notes in the chat if you've got any questions or interrogatory as we go through. So a quick bit of background on Alkira. We were founded in 2018 by Amir and Atif Khan, who were the founders of Cisco Viptela, the SD-WAN company that was sold to Cisco in 2017. So it was upon that exit, they sort of looked at one of the next big challenges in the industry and the fact that a lot of organizations were moving wholesale to the cloud. And they were also starting to experience and see a lot of different trends in the market that were evolving, whether that was internet becoming the new transit, cloud becoming the new data center, or user becoming the new identity. And with all of those things coupled together, they formed Alkira with one goal in mind, and that was to simplify end-to-end networking. Since the launch, coming out of stealth mode in 2020, we've received a huge number of industry accreditations, and we've onboarded and count some of the world's largest global organizations as our customers today, helping them solve a number of different challenges. If you just move to the next slide. So if we think about that challenge and that landscape that we're seeing within the within organizations' networks today, you know, we've seen organizations move to the cloud. We've seen organizations evolve to become not just operating within a single cloud, but also within multiple clouds as well. So with that has come a whole set of kind of new classes of networking. So whether that's providing on-prem to cloud connectivity, networking inside the cloud, so within AWS, within Azure, within GCP, or delivering cloud to cloud connectivity. All of that and all of those experiences from a networking standpoint are completely different to the traditional way of building networks on-prem. So unifying and bringing all of that together has driven a huge amount of change and challenge for a lot of organizations. What we have seen, if you move to the next slide, Pete, is a lot of organizations have tried to solve that via a number of different methods, but it's been very much focused on connectivity to the cloud. So building out VPN tunnels, building out SD-WAN services or cloud on-ramps and using those to get to the cloud. However, that only answers part of the challenge. What that doesn't do is help you in terms of networking and connectivity inside and between the cloud service providers. So that's where Alkira is really extending our reach, is with an on-demand network infrastructure, we're able to build connectivity to the cloud, networking inside and between those different cloud service providers. So it truly provides an end-to-end network as a service. If you move to the next slide, Pete. So yeah, Alkira's network infrastructure on demand, the thing that kind of sets us apart in terms of our approach is we hear the term network as a service used a lot within the industry today. And everyone has their own iteration of what that means and how that is. But essentially, what we've built is a network infrastructure on top of the hyperscalers' cloud infrastructure. So if you think about network as a service, this isn't rebadged hardware delivered to you in a consumption model. This isn't a cloud native network delivered to you in the cloud. It's essentially a fully rooted network stack, so our own proprietary routers deployed on top of the hyperscalers' cloud infrastructure. Amazon, GCP, Azure, they're spending billions of dollars building out these global backbones and availability zones. We're essentially leveraging that investment with our software deployed on top of their networks. So that enables us then to start to meet and deliver against a whole range of different challenges that we're seeing within businesses today. If you move to the next slide, the main component of Alkira's solution is the cloud exchange point. So we'll talk a lot about this today, and this is a really important concept to get your head around in terms of understanding how Alkira might be able to help you today. But Alkira Cloud Exchange Points are essentially highly available virtual colos that we have deployed inside the hyperscalers cloud infrastructure today. So think of them as a fully rooted network stack with integrated management plane, control plane, and data plane elements deployed on top of an availability zone. So if you were to try and build this natively in the cloud today, you'd need to deploy all of your routers and firewalls and a fully meshed architecture across different availability zones in order to make sure that they're highly available, highly resilient, that they can scale horizontally and vertically. So that's what we've built in the cloud. So when you subscribe to an Alkira service and start building your global network of CXPs within each of the different regions, this is the architecture that you're deploying under the hood. What we do is remove the complexity for you by packaging that up and delivering the cloud exchange point to you as a service. And it's one of the things that really kind of sets us apart from other players in the market today. So if you move on to the next slide, Pete, these cloud exchange points can be deployed inside, as I mentioned previously, any of the cloud regions that you want to deploy them within. So think GCP, AWS, Azure, wherever they have a region, we can deploy one of these cloud exchange points. As soon as you deploy multiple cloud exchange points, they're fully meshed. So they build a global IP backbone between each other, and we leverage the hyperscaler cloud infrastructure to have that backbone built. So ultimately, what you would do with these cloud exchange points is to deploy them close to your users and close to your applications in order for you to be able to start building that end-to-end network. If we move on to the next slide, I'll just build this out in terms of some of the use cases that we can help organizations deliver with this architecture today. So if we start on the top right-hand side with the portal, when it comes to deploying Alkira, it's a SaaS-based network as a service. So you log into a portal in order to start deploying those cloud exchange points, as I mentioned a moment ago, close to users and close to your applications. When you have those deployed, that's your global backbone built. You can automate all of this with Terraform and build it into your CI/CD pipeline. However, I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of logging into the Alkira portal and some of the challenges that we can help you solve that way. So if you just click to the next slide again, Pete, and then the first kind of use case that we help a lot of organizations with is multi-cloud networking. So the value of leveraging this architecture for multi-cloud networking is, again, it's really down to that cloud exchange point. So the cloud exchange point essentially becomes your hub for any given cloud region, and it can connect to spoke level VPCs and VNets within any cloud region. What that then does is removes the need for you to have to deploy transit gateways, Cloud WAN, VPN gateways, vWAN, those sorts of cloud native networking functions that you would have to understand, manage, own, deploy, and run the lifecycle management on. All of that moves into the Alkira Cloud Exchange point. We provide that as a service. You simply connect to your spoke level VPCs and VNets of each of the different cloud service providers. So from a data operations perspective, there's a huge amount of cost saving. There's a cloud native cost saving and a huge simplification of architecture as well, because you're essentially having one overlay network deployed across all of your hyperscalers. If you move to the next slide, Pete, once you've got that architecture built and we have that networking built across all of those different cloud service providers, we can then insert third-party network and security services. So as an example, if you look at, say, Palo Alto firewalls and deploying those within the Cloud Exchange point, the experience of doing that with Alkira is a drop-down portal where you set some routing policies, you set some auto-scaling policies, and deploy those either with pay-as-you-go license keys or BYOL within that Cloud Exchange point. We then look after all the lifecycle management and the auto-scaling of that instance. If you compare that to deploying the Palo Alto firewalls cloud natively, what you might end up with, and what we often see with our customers, is that they have multiple next-gen firewalls deployed per region, per cloud, and sometimes even across a number of different VPCs, depending on the traffic profiles of that organization. So from a TCO standpoint, deploying Palo Alto firewalls inside a single hub CXP and having that architecture and doing selective routing through those means that you can have a much more efficient architecture as well as a lower network TCO. Other network services we can deploy in there as well are listed there, as well as more that we're adding all of the time. If you just move on to the next slide, Pete. Once you've sort of started to then deliver that multi-cloud networking, some of the other use cases we deliver really extend to WAN modernization and leveraging that global IP backbone for any-to-any connectivity. So we can bring in remote sites via standard IPsec, so they can connect to their local cloud exchange point. And from there, they can have connectivity into any of the cloud service providers, other remote sites, data centers, and so on. If you have SD-WAN deployed, you can bring that into the cloud exchange points as well. And essentially, you can have a pair of SD-WAN instances deployed, again, similar to the firewall. Inside the cloud exchange point, we deal with all the lifecycle management and extend that SD-WAN fabric directly into that global backbone. If you click again, Pete, we can also bring in remote users via our own VPN or a third-party VPN in order for them to be able to connect to their local cloud exchange point and have that any-to-any connectivity from a user's machine. And then if you click again, Pete, if there's a high throughput, low latency requirement for connectivity into the cloud or site to site, we can bring data centers and CNFs in via ExpressRoute, Direct Connect, and Google Interconnect. One of the benefits of doing this with Alkira is that if you had a data center on the right-hand side there coming in via Direct Connect, they could leverage that method of connectivity to ride the global backbone and get to any of the cloud service providers from there. So we can start to reduce the number of connects that you have coming into the different clouds from there as well by consolidating that into the Alkira backbone. And then the last use case I'll touch on, if you click again, Pete, is around B2B partners and mergers and acquisitions. A lot of organizations, once they've built out their corporate network with Alkira and they have all of their different VRFs built out for different business units, they then start to sort of tackle and look at their extranet network and how they can bring in third-party business partners. The way that we do that is via any of those aforementioned methods. So you might have a business partner that wants to connect their GCP environment to your AWS environment or their data center to your Azure environment. Lots of different variations of that connectivity that are now evolving that we're helping our customers deal with by being able to bring in that connectivity via standard IPsec, SD-WAN, VPC connections, whatever it might be, into that cloud exchange point. Once they're connected, they land inside their own VRF, so they're logically separated from the rest of the corporate network. And then you can enable a feature called resource sharing for them to go through that Palo Alto firewall or other firewall, as I mentioned previously. And then from there, they can have access into the services they require access to, whether they're hosted on-prem or in the cloud as well. This use case extends then to mergers and acquisitions, as using the cloud exchange point as a centralized way of bringing two networks together and having that logical separation done, but being able to quickly and enable sharing of resources and applications from there. So that was intended as a very high-level overview of kind of end-to-end network as a service with Alkira and some of the different use cases that we can help to solve. I'll pause there in case there's any questions, but if not, we can move on to Chris's whiteboard and demo overview.
Yeah, so there's one question. It's are the cross-cloud connectivities private circuits or VPNs over the internet? So I was just typing out a response, but essentially if we build your CXP in Azure and it connects to an Azure VNet, then that's either a VNet peering or it uses a VGW to connect, but doesn't leave the Azure backbone. If it's an Azure CXP and it connects to an AWS VPC, then that would be using different elements to connect using IPsec over the internet. Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, I don't think there was any questions.
Good, thanks. That was a good introduction. Right, let's go over some real use cases to try and bring this to life even more. So use case one is where what we see is that cloud networks, cloud environments are created by a cloud platform team. But then go on to the network team, they ask for a range of IP addresses, and they're off to go build their own networks. And there's really a lot of collaboration for various reasons. So there's a gap there. What we think that we've got a very good solution to with Alkira. So Chris, show us what you got.
Sorry, say that again.
So the first use case is with the cloud platform teams and the network teams not really working together for various reasons. The network teams aren't maybe up to full, maybe up to speed with cloud. Cloud network teams aren't fully up to speed with networking. So how can we fix this using Alkira?
Yep. So if you use the Alkira platform, you don't need to learn multiple clouds, which is good. And our platform is truly network as a service. So there's no firewalls or agents or any installs on-prem or within your cloud pieces as well. So no agent installs in VNets and VPCs, for example. And then what's great is the Alkira platform is very intuitive and it uses kind of traditional networking language, traditional networking kind of methodologies, but in a futuristic way that's built purposely to optimize cloud to cloud, cloud to on-prem, and on-prem to on-prem connectivity. So you only learn the one platform and it's very easy to use and very easy to understand as long as you have some basic networking knowledge.
That's good. And then the cloud networks, they connect directly to Alkira's backbone, right? There's no need to set up transit gateways or VLANs or anything.
That's correct. A lot of what we use under the hood is cloud native technologies because we're built within the hyperscalers. So we build, as Phil stated, in Azure, in AWS, and in GCP. So a lot of what we do under the hood is cloud native, but you don't have to have the understanding of what's happening underneath. You just have to understand what you want to achieve. You define that in the platform, and underneath, under the hood, it kind of builds that out for you in a highly available and very resilient way.
That's really good. Thanks. Okay, so I think that was clear. Let's go to the next use case where we've got IP address overlap. So there might have been mergers and acquisitions. We might have had the first landing zone built in the cloud, and then we found out it didn't quite meet the requirements. We started a new landing zone. There may be networks that are overlapping IP addresses. How does Alkira help resolve these problems?
So we help in a number of different ways here. So firstly, during mergers and acquisitions, the best practice way to look into that and to segregate that traffic is using VRF technologies, which we have natively built into the platform, no extra cost. So that is what we call a segment, and a segment is essentially a VRF, a route domain. We allow route sharing or VRF route leaking between these elements as well, which is quite good. So if there's a merger or acquisition, or you're onboarding a vendor or a partner, and this is kind of where Phil touched on extranet as a service, we have that kind of segregation of route policies as well. We also have natting. We offer all types of NAT, one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one. We offer PAT and overload and things like that. So we can onboard different mergers and acquisition elements. We can onboard different vendors, different partners, even with overlapping address spaces, and then NAT their addresses as they come into the platform and as they talk to different elements of the original business. And then finally, we have overlapping IP address overlap kind of monitoring. So when we see an overlap in the same route domain, we will actually flag it up as an issue to you as something you need to resolve.
That's really good. It's very useful as well to bring that up, alert, so that something can be done about it. And then the last use case, network security. So it kind of continues from the theme of use case 1, where security teams, they may have their own tools, they don't fully integrate with network tools, or there's overlap. We've got expensive network tools with all sorts of capabilities. However, they may not be fully utilized because the network team, the security team, have decided they've got different requirements. They've got their own tool sets. So there's some overlap and gaps in there. And how nice would it be if we can just bring all that segmentation security into the network fabric? What solutions does Alkira have here then, Chris?
So we have a number of ways we can help here as well. So we have inbuilt Alkira native policies, which are traffic policies, which are 6-tuple layer 4 available rules that are built into the platform at no extra cost. So that can allow and deny traffic based on source destination IP addresses, source destination ports, and at the what we call the connector level, which we can go into shortly. So that's one level of security. Obviously, we have the segmentation piece, which is VRF. So we have route domain separation, which can also be considered a security mechanism because we're separating route tables themselves. The NAT capability as well, you can maybe throw that in there as well. And then finally, we actually have tight integrations with multiple next-gen firewalls. So if you wanted to deploy a Palo Alto, a Cisco, a FortiGate, or a Checkpoint, you can do that in the Alkira portal itself. And there's no day two operation management from that perspective as well. So what you do is you spin it up within the portal. We manage kind of the compute, the network, and storage of that. And then essentially all you're doing is you're going to be using the next-gen firewall portal, whether that be a centralized manager or directly with that kind of instance or that cluster or that bunch of cluster instances. And then essentially you will be using either next-gen features, layer 7 firewall rules, or layer 4 firewall rules. So we kind of tackle it from multiple angles, and it really depends on what you're trying to achieve, what you want to pay for, what you want to get out of it.
Sounds like really good. So your depth of security is really good. You got in the fabric, you've got the cloud native constructs, you've got the Alkira's constructs, and you've got the next generation firewalls. So there's a lot of security built into the network, and it's all integrated. So you can, especially when using Alkira, you can just boost those policies all across the globe with a touch of a button, right?
Exactly. So all of our policies are global. So it depends on kind of our tagging mechanism, what we call grouping, but essentially they can be restricted to specific regions. They can be global policies, and they can be really pretty much whatever you want. We give you as much flexibility and allow you to do pretty much anything you want in the portal. And it's really how you want to design it. And from a sales engineer perspective, which is kind of pre-sales, and a solution architecture perspective, which is post-sales, then we look at that and we try to aid you in not only the best design, the most optimal design, but also how we can best lower that TCO to give you the most out of the platform itself.
That's good. And then with role-based access control, we can set up guardrails and allowances for DevOps people to create their own application rules. And we've got the network management and the security people to handle the network security and the external firewalls, what we allow in.
Yeah, so we have standard roles within our RBAC. So we have kind of that SAML integration, so you can integrate with an SSO provider of your choosing. Once you've integrated that, we do have 3 built-in roles, which is the network admin, the admin, and kind of an auditor role. And then on top of that, we also have the ability to create custom roles. So if you want custom roles for specific use cases, for specific teams, that's okay. And recently, I think in Q1 of this year, early Q1, we released policies based on those RBACs as well. So you could have, for example, a net admin that can, manipulate routes and change NAT policies and things like that. But you can have it based on a policy that says you can only do it in a pre-production area, or only do it when you're looking at customer A or vendor A, things like that. So we also have very granular controls about what each of those RBAC roles could do if you wanted to go into that level of depth.
Great, thanks. I think that was it. So we went through the 3 use cases. We've seen how Alkira offers all these solutions. It improves collaborations amongst teams. It simplifies complex network solutions, and it shortens the tech stack because it just simply incorporates all that stuff into a fabric. Does anyone have any questions at all? Any things I'd like to say, discuss? Or that's not the case. Oh, he's typing. External identity providers, such as, for instance, Entrata ID, I suppose, or AWS Duo.
Yeah, I mean, when you're integrating with your SAML provider, as long as you have multi-factor authentication with that, then we pick it up as well. It's more of a case of we integrate with the SAML providers and whatever level of kind of security out around that, then that's what's absorbed into our platform.
Excellent, great. Well, that went a little bit quicker than expected. It was a good session anyway, I thought. Learned a lot about Alkira today, what can be done. And with all that, I'd like to say thanks everybody for your attention. And we'll talk to you soon, hopefully. I hope you've your takeaway is positive from Alkira, that it can do lots of very cool stuff. Phil, Chris, anything you would like to add?
That's great from my side. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks everybody for attending. Thank you.
Bye-bye.